I see people talk about, bodybuilders of the 90s, and, I appreciate that they talk about myself and Lee and Chris, but I wish people would, talk about, Sonny Schmidt and
And
how incredible he was.
even like a Matarazzo, he was like
Very
one of
underrated.
the, Matarazzo was so easy going, down
Oh,
to earth, would give you the shirt off his back, old Mike and that. And
yep. It's like I talked about Gary Stratham,
yeah,
and I'm like, for me, it's like I'm sorry, but I look at those guys and I'm like, man, those guys are incredible. I used to love Mike Christensen.
I gotta say,
I'm
Mike
like,
Christian, he was always a character at the gym
Mm.
and friendly as hell. Like his laugh, you could hear his laugh through the whole gym. It was like,
whole gym. So I wish more people would talk about these guys and just
yeah.
fuck how incredible. Even Richard Gaspari, like Rich Gaspari. Oh my God, man. I remember some of the Mr. Olympia, Rich was the first guy to bring striated glutes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I don't know if I don't know if people even know about that. You're like,
And there was no
Rich
fucking hip
Gaspari?
thruster machines back then, people. You got from doing hard work.
Just hard work, man. But you're like Rich man. If Lee Haney wasn't there, how many Mr. Olympias would have Rich would
Yeah.
have won?
Yeah.
Fucks.
I remember my dad used to, because my dad previously competed back in when was it, the 90s or 80s or whatever. And he had, stacks of bodybuilding magazines, and, some of them had, I know one of them I've had multiple ones with both of you guys on the cover as well. And I just remember seeing these physiques, back from the 90s and, late 80s. And I was such a fan, and I became a fan of like you guys then that got me into bodybuilding, even though it was, after that era. So I've got such an appreciation for the 90s as well. And, looking at it subjectively, it's still the 90s are spoken about as the golden era or big golden era of bodybuilding, because there were so many great physiques. And like you said, Paul, there's so many that you forget as
Oh,
well. There's even guys like Rory Liedlmeyer and guys like that just have great physiques. Bob Paris, you can keep naming these guys.
Barry
There's so
the
many.
May. Barry the May.
Yep.
Barry the May. Oh, listen,
Oh, crazy
guys
Jimmy.
who
Oh, Jimmy Quinn at Gold's Gym. Crazy Jimmy.
oh yeah, guys who never turned pro. Paul
Look at
DeMeo.
Edgar Fletcher. Remember Edgar Fletcher? There's the guy.
I was just looking at his photos not too long ago. I'm like, oh my God, Edgar. Like you were saying, Rory Liedermeyer. I was an amateur. I was a nothing. I was looking up to Matt Mendenhall.
Yeah.
Rory Liedermeyer, and just like looking at the magazine and just dreaming about, man, if I could be like these guys. And they were amateurs.
Yeah.
That's today. Do you even know any amateur bodybuilders?
Now?
To me too, today I noticed, nothing against today's guys, but I saw the guy who just won the Nationals on Dave's show. Nothing against him, but when you compare the top guy winning the Nationals today, amateur, to say like when Kevin won or somebody else won, it's just like a whole. It's almost like, because they're giving out the pro cards so easy now, it's like they haven't done their time. They haven't got that muscle maturity.
Yeah.
They're not ready to step on
Yeah.
a pro stage, when back then, if you got your pro card, you were ready. Next year, if you're on the Ironman, you're probably placing in the top 5
You're ready.
straight away.
Listen, Lee, yourself, myself, Flex, Heaven, Chris. When we all turned pro, the talks was, oh shit, this is gonna change the Olympia, and we did. We changed, because we got rid of the old guards and we became the new kids on the block, But the difference between us is, I find, we respected those guys so much. The Lee Labrades, like we're talking about, the Rich Gasparis, man, Lee Haney to me was like a god, and he still is like a god to me. I love Ronnie and everyone, but for me, Lee Haney is my GOAT, and he's GOAT just because of what a gentleman he is, what an incredible person. There's nobody else for me other than Haney.
And you never hear too, like
again,
now you hear so much too when they do get their pro cards now, and they ask them, okay, what are you going to do? Nearly for the last couple of years, the first thing they say is, I'm going to take a year or two off to put size on. It's like I said, we got our pro card. It was straight into the pros. There was no year or two to put more size on. You were ready to go.
Yeah, we couldn't wait. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Put more size on. The more you diet and compete, your physique's gonna change anyhow. You know, that's just natural, whether for the better or for the worse. But we've never said, oh, I'm gonna take time off to put on more size. It's, you know, talking about guys from the 90s. I tell people, I said, Jesus, my God, fucking Sean Ray, love him or hate him, that
physique,
Jesus Christ, he was good. He was so, man, he was fucking unreal.
The conditioning, polished everything. Like, you couldn't really fault him when it came to being on stage. Was it 96, I think? Was it 96 or one of those years he could have come closer, I think, even winning the Olympia?
It was, you know, listen, again, you know, when they changed things up and had the 202 and all that stuff, if they had that category back then, it would be Lee and Sean would be going back and forth for who won the most title in that category, you know?
Yeah.
You know, it's, you ask yourself, I think it's a great idea what they did when they bring the 202, because I think it made it a lot fairer for someone like Lee or Sean if they had the opportunity, you know, where now you're going up against a guy who is 6 feet or whatever, you know. Do they favor that? I don't know. Maybe they did. Maybe they, you know. But I just think it'd be a more level playing field, or, you know, or even for someone like myself, who knows? Maybe it'd be, if I didn't have to be fighting against Lee and Sean, who knows, right?
Yeah.
But I think it was a really good idea. I wouldn't have mind seeing having the, you know, the 202, and then the open, and then there's an over.
Yeah, I've always said that'd be great to see. Yeah, even if it wasn't like, say, okay, there's no title given out, but maybe just some money. It would be great to just see the two champions go at it. Like, I think didn't Arnold and Franco do that a couple of years where they put Arnold and Franco? I think back then it was more on height, like Nabby used to do. So I even said, even if they got rid of the weight, have like a 5'6" and under, and over 5'6". That way, if you're under 5'6", you can still weigh maybe 220, 230, and then have the other 5'6". Both of them go at it for the overall.
I think people would love that, because now it's like, oh shit, you know, it's truly a battle. You know what I mean?
And I think people thought that couldn't happen before. And look, Paul, I want to get your opinion. We saw Chris Bumstead go into the Open and compete against Martin Fitzwater. I don't know if you caught that.
Yeah, I saw it.
What did you think of that? Because that was almost like people thought that after prejudging that Chris Bumstead was going to beat, or potentially was going to beat, Martin Fitzwater, which would have it would have been very unusual for a classic guy, you know, being able to win a show against a guy who finished 4th in the Olympia. Did you think that the IFBB could have made like maybe some sort of big switch where they put more of an emphasis on more of that look from the 90s, or did you agree that, you know, the bigger guy should win?
Well, it all depends on how you look at it, right? It's like I picked the kid who won the Mr. Olympia. What's his name?
Samson Dowder?
Samson. The first time I saw him was the year before. I think it was 2003. Yeah, when I said, man, this kid has an amazing physique. I said, if he just lost some weight and get in shape, you know, I'm like, he could do it. And then when I went to the Olympia last year and I saw him, I did a podcast with Chris, Milos, and Dennis, and, you know, everyone is saying who they pick. I said I picked this kid. I think he's amazing. I still, just my beliefs, I still think he needs to lose a little more weight, because I think if he does, he might disagree. Maybe everyone else will disagree with me, but I think if he loses 5 pounds, 6, 7 pounds, I think you're gonna see someone he's gonna be untouchable. No, you can't beat him. You know, the kid that took second, the Iranian guys,
Hadi.
Hadi. I think he looks amazing. He looks incredible. You know, but when you put them side by side, you can't beat Derek. He's not going to Samson. He's not going to
Samson,
beat him. If he just because if he drops 5 pounds, 7 pounds, 8 pounds, fuck it, 10 pounds, it's going to make him look even bigger on stage.
Remember, a classic example that was Flex. Remember when Flex, when he first won the Arnold at 218, looked like he was 240, 250. And then when Flex tried to play that size game with Ronnie and came in 240, he never looked as good. Yes, he was still round and that, but he lost that crispness. And people have to realize on stage and it's illusion. That's why I looked a lot bigger than what I weighed on stage, because the tighter you get, and this comes in tighter, your joints get smaller, the muscles just balloon out more. So standing up there, like people used to think I was 230 on stage when I was weighing 208. It's like, you know.
I agree with what Lee just said. And for me, Flex was one of my favorite all-time bodybuilders. I admired the first time I saw Flex Wheeler in the gym. I was like, holy fuck. I just thought, I was like, man, I saw the most perfect fucking bodybuilder. That was that's what I thought about him, you know?
His wrists looked that big. It's like, his wrists looked that big, and the shoulders and the arms.
And his back just looks like ropes, you know?
Yeah.
I remember seeing a video of him doing, I think it was deadlifts on a Smith machine, and he's pulling back, and it just, like it's that to me blew my mind.
Man. That's just, you know, Ronnie may have a bigger back, but for me, Flex's back, ain't nobody still touch it. Again, just my humble opinion. And my favorite Flex Wheeler is the first Arnold.
Yeah,
I agree with that. At 216, 218. I don't care how much you weighed. I was like, man.
Every pose he did back then, even the twisting back shots, he had the feathers through his lats. No matter what he did, every muscle was just feathered. And then that standing front on, the delt caps, the arms, everything was just like, you know, 3D.
You know, for myself, that was my best condition. And for me, I'm sure Flex would probably think the same thing of himself, but I wish I'd stayed at that weight. And to be honest, I only weighed 265. Remember, I'm over 6 feet 2.
You know, you had a small waist. I remember back then looking at all the photos, and then, you know, you'd always class someone as a mass monster or a aesthetic guy. And I think you were always classed as a mass monster, but it gets sort of lost, but you had like a really small waist.
The thing with Paulies too, they say, okay, Samson's on stage at 280 or whatever. When you see a picture of Paul, those pictures of Paul back in the day, the silhouette, and then you see him, if Paul said he's 300, you'll believe him because the illusion and Paul's shoulders and arms, and they're going to, well, he didn't have a great back. Paul had a huge back. Maybe it wasn't as detailed as others, but when a guy's that big, trust me, he doesn't have a shit fucking back. That's like, come on.
Well, you know, see what those are the things like what Lee's saying, you know, it's like you hear all these talks and you're like, I used to always say this to people. I said, well, you know, there is seven poses. And, you know, maybe there are guys who come out there and they'll beat me in the back double bicep. They're not really beating me in the back lat spread. It's really the back double bicep, you know? And let's say I give you the back lat spread. You're like, well, there is the front double, front lats, the side abdominals and thighs, most muscular. So what makes that, you know, you win 2 and I win 5, but you're 2.
I used to hate that when they say shows are won from the back. I'm the same. I'm like, but it's only 2 poses. What about all the others? It's like,
Do you think they came around with, was it around before Ronnie, or was that around the days of Dorian?
It was almost Dorian, but I think when Ronnie came in 98.
Lee Haney. Because Lee had a crazy back, and that's where Lee used to beat a lot of the guys, and I'm like,